In the last class, we discussed about the need of constitution and what is constitution. So today, here we are going to discuss about the Indian constitution. By the 12th century, the Indian national movement was active in the struggle for independence from British rule for several decades. That is, Indian national movement was very active in the struggle for independence. It was a movement or a group of people who started to fight for freedom, and it went on for several decades, around 200 years. People of national movement had an imagination of free India. They had already a visual of free India, a vision of free India, or an imagination of free India. The first imagination was of democracy. As we suffered a lot under the authoritarian rule of colonial government, that is under the rule of British government, we have suffered a lot. They wanted equal participation in decision making. Who wanted? The Indian national movement, the group of people who were fighting for independence, wanted equal participation in decision making. How was this achieved? This was done by one person, not done by one person, but by a group of around 300 people, which was called Constituent Assembly. A group of 300 people, which was called Constituent Assembly, and was finally drafted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Challenges to frame constitution. What were the challenges to frame constitution? India was a diverse country, means India is known for its diversity. There are different people, different culture, different languages, for which these constitution had to be followed by, and it had to be successful. Constitution had to be successful, and it had to be taken happily by the diverse country. India had faced a tragedy and turmoil called partition also. So there was a tragedy and there was a confusion which was going on during the formation of constitution. That is the partition of India and Pakistan, where people had lost their lives, people had become homeless, and people were under confusion whether they have to follow the constitution or not. There was integration of princely states also. Integration of princely state means there were around 500 small states which were ruled by kings or princes. That all had to be people who were drafting the constitution, the Constituent Assembly of 300 people, had to convince them. They had to convince these princely states to follow according to the democracy. They were even concerned about the dwelling poverty. Now India was dwelling with poverty. Poor people were more. Now there had to be socio-economic concern also that had to be seen. Thus, it was a great challenge for the leaders of the country to balance among all these and form a constitution. So now let's see the key features of the constitution. The first key feature is federalism. Federalism. What is federalism? Existence of more than one level of government, that is central government, state government, local government. These are the three existence of level of government. Central means at the center, PM works. State means at the state level, CM, Chief Minister works, Prime Minister works, and local governments are nothing but panchayat system. So, need of federalism. What is the need of federalism? So, India is has a vast number of communities in India. There is a vast number of communities in India. How does this work? State enjoys autonomy in exercising power, but at the same time they follow the laws of the central government. Here you have to understand that the need of federalism is because there is a vast number of communities, and for the better administration they need division of this government, that is levels of government. There have to be levels of government. Constitution exercises power, that is the state exercises power, that is autonomy means absolute power in exercising absolute power, but at the same time they follow the laws of the center. They have absolute power or autonomy of the in the constitution, means they have power written in the state has power written in the constitution, but the laws, they have to follow the laws of the central government also. Got the point? So here constitution contains list that specify the law for each tier. So constitution contains these lists. There are 3 lists which they specify the law, which central government which it has to follow, state government which it has to follow, local government which it has to follow. The union list central government follows, under which foreign affairs comes. State list state follows, under which internal trade policies comes. Concurrent list both central and state makes decisions, which comes under education. States are not merely agents of central, but draw their authority from the constitution. So states are merely not the agent of the central government. They are not the agent. They are not subordinate to the center, but they draw their authority from the constitution, but they have to follow the center, that's all. So state is not merely an agent of center, or it is not merely a subordinate to center. It draws authority or power from the constitution, but still it has to obey the center. Parliamentary form of government. This is a second type of key feature of constitution. The form of government based on parliament who are elected representatives. So parliamentary form of government is a form of government based on parliament who are elected members. These elected members are elected through universal adult suffrage or universal adult franchise. Vote means what? Universal adult suffrage and franchise means voting rights to all above 18 years, irrespective of whether rich, poor, educated, uneducated, etc. At the same time, they can contest in election also. Who can contest? The people who vote above 18 years can contest in the election, irrespective of few rules which you will study in the 10th standard. Under parliamentary form of government, people elect their representatives. These representatives are accountable to the people. That is, they have to answer the people's question. They are answerable to the people. Who representatives are answerable to the people. Separation of power. The third key feature of constitution is separation of power. Separation of power means division of power or sharing of power. The heading itself tells you the meaning. Power is divided into 3 organs: legislature, executive, judiciary. Legislature means makes law. Legislature makes law. Executive implements, executes or enforces laws. Judiciary punishes the offender. Legislature examples are MLAs and MPs who sit in the parliament and make laws. Executives are police, prime minister, etc. Judiciary has nothing but Supreme Court, High Court, Civil Court, etc. To prevent the misuse of power and balance the power, this separation of power is made to prevent the misuse of power and balance the power and keep a check on power. Powers are being divided. Okay, why powers are divided? To prevent the misuse of power, balance the power, to keep a check on the power so that nobody misuses. Here state means, in your textbook there is a word state written. State means Indian nation or country. Then comes fundamental rights. Fundamental rights is also an important key feature. What are fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are nothing but basic rights. Basic rights. Fundamental rights refers to as the conscience of the constitution. Conscience means the inner voice of the constitution. Constitution maker wanted to ensure a set of written rights that would guard us against the misuse of state. So, fundamental right has been written. Fundamental rights protects the citizen against the arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by state as well as other individual. Arbitrary means one-sided, injustice, biased situation, and absolute exercise of the power by the state as well as other individuals. Fundamental rights guarantees the right of minority against the majority. There are 6 fundamental rights: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, right to constitutional remedy, cultural and educational right. Okay, right to equality, Article 13, 14, 15. Under this right, all are equal, irrespective of caste, gender, religion, rich and poor. Right to freedom, freedom to move anywhere, to express, to speak, etc. To exercise this, you must consider other individuals' right also, which means that you are not supposed to go and sit in the neighbor's house telling that you have freedom to move anywhere. Okay, because you have to consider other individual freedom also. So right to freedom, you have to consider others' individual freedom and then you have to take your own freedom. Right against exploitation, which means right against human trafficking, bonded laborers and child labor. Here human trafficking is nothing but buying and selling of humans. Bonded laborer are none but who work under a person from generations to generation. Child labor is children working under 14 years, which is banned. All these human trafficking, bonded labor, child labor is against the law. So these are exploitation, these are wrong things which is going on in the society. So there is right against exploitation. Right to freedom of religion, to follow, practice, propagate, profess and any religion, which means if you are a Hindu, you can convert yourself to Christianity. If you are a Christian, you can convert yourself to Hinduism. So if you are born in one religion, you can take over to other religion. That is freedom, right to freedom of religion. Right to constitutional remedies. Under this right, if any fundamental right is violated, one can go to the court. Okay, so cultural and educational rights. The last right is very important, cultural and educational right. All have the right to protect one's own culture and education. For example, schools to study Quran and Bhagavad Gita must not be condemned. It has to be continued, it has to be protected. Then the twofold objects of fundamental rights. What are the twofold objectives of fundamental rights? Every citizen of India must be in the position to claim the fundamental right. So every citizen must know their own fundamental right, must be in the position to claim their fundamental right. Okay, second one is fundamental rights must be binding on every authority that has got the power to make law. Fundamental rights must be binding. Means what? Every authority must know what is fundamental right and how they have to carry it on. Then comes DPSP, means Directive Principles of State Policy. Directive Principles of State Policy of India are the guidelines or 15 principles given to the Federal Institutes. Federal Institute means what? Division of power, that is central state government and local government. So it is a guideline given to them to govern the state of the India. Article 36 and 51 deals with DPSP. These are ideals meant to be kept in the mind by the state when It formulates policies and enacts laws. Okay, they are the guidelines of central and state government while making laws. So these DPSPs have to be kept in the minds while making laws, formulating the policies. So now next video will be on important question and answers. Please subscribe, like and share for more videos.